and welcome to All Things Knitty. This week's stitch is the Cobblestone Stitch. It is a beautiful one row repeat after your foundation row. This stitch is perfect for a gentleman's scarf. Once you've got the technique down, it is very easy. As you can see, each of these cobblestones, one goes one way, and then on your next row it faces the other way, and we're building up on top of each column. I've done a couple of swatches just so you can see what it's like when you use the colour changing yarn. This is a soft cotton. It's very stretchy. I really like this stitch. It's a wee bit easier to see on the solid colour. As you've seen on the screen, your multiple is 3 plus 5. So I've just got 20 here to show you. I'm going to show you on a larger hook, but I do recommend that you use the hook size recommended for your wool. If you're using a double knit wool, to get this nice stretch, use a 4mm crochet hook. Once you have your multiple of 3 plus 5, you're going to begin in the 6th chain from your hook. So in the 6th chain, you're going to work a double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in the 6th, we're going to work a US term double crochet. So that's yarn over, insert into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, and throughout this video, I'm going to refer to this as your triangle gap. It just makes it a wee bit easier to understand the stitch. So once you have your triangle gap, you're going to chain 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Then into the triangle gap and around this post, you're going to work 3 double crochets, pulling through just the first 2 loops, and we'll call this your cluster. So to begin the cluster, you're going to yarn over, insert into the triangle gap, yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through just the first 2. You're going to do that 2 more times, so 3 in total. Yarn over into the triangle gap, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through just the first 2 loops, and 1 more time, pulling through just the first 2 loops. Once you have 4 loops on your hook, we're going to skip 2. So as you can see, it's a wee bit, this pattern sometimes can fool you into thinking you're in the right stitch. So it's very important to keep count while working this stitch. So as you can see, we have already worked into this stitch. So we're going to skip 2. So skip 1, skip 2, and in this 3rd stitch along, we're going to yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through just 2. Once you have 5 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through all 5. And as you can see with the skipping 2, that makes your next triangle gap. So it's the exact same as what we just done. You begin by chain 3 into your triangle gap. You're going to work your cluster of 3 double crochets with just pulling through the first 2 stitches, and you do that 3 times. So yarn over, insert, just the first 2, again into your triangle gap, pull up a loop and just pull through the first 2, and 1 more time into the triangle gap through just the first 2. Now we have 4 loops on our hook. We're going to skip 2, so it's not this one. That doesn't count because we've worked into it. So skip this stitch and the next. Into the 3rd stitch along, you're going to work a double crochet, but just pulling through the first 2 loops. Once you have 5 loops, you're going to yarn over and pull through all 5 loops, and that makes your next triangle gap. I'll show you that one more time, and then you can finish the row. you begin by chaining 3. Into your triangle gap, you're going to work your cluster of 3 double crochets, pulling through just the first 2 stitches. You're then going to skip 2, skip 1, skip 2, and in the 3rd stitch along, you're going to work a double crochet, but just pulling through the first 2 loops. Then you have 5 loops, yarn over through all 5 loops. So continue doing that until you've got a few stitches left. You'll stop and you should have a few stitches left, and I'll show you how to finish the row. If you are going to make a mistake on this pattern, it will always be at the end of the row because it can be quite tricky. So continue working across, chain 3, 3 doubles into your triangle gap, pull through just 2, skip 2, so you skip this one, and you work a double pulling through the first 2 loops only, and you'll be left with 2 stitches, and I'll meet you there. Okay, so now you're at the end of the row with just 2 stitches left. You'll notice that we just made another triangle gap, so we're going to work the stitch one more time. As you can see, I've chained 3 already. I'm going to be working into the triangle gap, doing our 3 double crochet with only pulling through the first 2 loops, and we're going to do that 3 times. Just through 2, and then again, yarning over and pulling through just the first 2. Then just skip 1 this time. In the very last stitch, you're going to finish your cobblestone by pulling up a loop and yarn over and just pulling through the first 2 loops. We have 5 again, yarn over through all 5. So as you can see, I've got 5 clusters. However many clusters you have, you need to make sure that you always have 5, because it's quite easy to lose a cluster at the end of this row. But once you get into it, it is very easy to remember. So that was your foundation row. We're going to begin the pattern row, and this is the row that you'll repeat from now on. So to begin that, you're going to chain 2 loose chains, 2 and turn. To begin, we're working into the chain space here. You're going to work 1 double crochet, and you're going to make it a complete double crochet by yarning over 2 and then 2 again. That's how you make your first triangle gap. So you begin your pattern, chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. Then into the triangle gap, you're going to work your 3 doubles, working through just the first 2 stitches. One more time. Yarn over, pull through 2. Now, you're going to be working into the very next chain space, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing, because this looks like the chain space that you want to go into because it's right beside it. But if you look, you do have a stitch already worked in this one, so you're going to skip all the way over to this next chain space and complete your stitch by working your double crochet but just pulling through the first 2. Once you have 5 loops, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops, and as you can see, that's made your next triangle gap. So as you can see, we're building these clusters right on top of one another. So as you can see, this is on top of this one. We're going to be working our next that will build on top of this one. So into the triangle gap, again, work the same stitch that you've been working, chain 3, do your double crochet cluster, pulling through just the first 2. Once you have 4 loops, you're going to jump all the way over to this next chain space, because as you can see, we've worked on top of this one, into the next chain space, complete your stitch by working your double crochet, pulling through 2, then through all 5, and then again this is your next triangle gap. You're going to do that all the way across the row and finish at the end. We'll do the last one together. So chain 3, you'll work your 3 double crochet cluster into this triangle gap, then finish your stitch all the way over in this chain space and stop, and we'll do the end of this row together. Okay, so you're at the last cluster, and like I said previously, this is where the pattern can sometimes go wrong, because it looks like you're completely finished, but as you can see, the last stitch has made another triangle gap, and we've only got 4 clusters, so we need to make our 5th, and this is the one that's different from the rest. Begin like you have done by chaining 3, then into your triangle gap, work your 3 double crochet cluster that you've done. Now, there isn't a chain space to work into, so what you do for the last one is into the long chain from the row below, you're going to count this chain as number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, because if you remember, we worked into the 6th chain from hook. You're going to work into the 2nd chain backwards, so not the top chain here, into the 2nd chain. You're going to yarn over, insert, and you're going right through that stitch. You're not going into the gap, you're going through the stitch. So you need to make sure you have your V on, pull through, then pull through just 2, you have 5, pull through all 5. And as you can see, that's made our 5th cluster. So I'm going to take that out and show you that one more time, because it is a wee bit different. Once you've chained 3, work your cluster into your triangle gap. Your 4 loops. You're going to work into the 2nd chain backwards, so number 1, number 2, right through that stitch. You're going to do your double crochet, but pull through just the first 2 loops. We have 5, yarn over, pull through all 5. Begin your next row the same way, chain 2, working into the first chain space. You work 1 double crochet completely. That gives you your triangle gap. Chain 3, work into your triangle gap using the same method you have done. 2 and 3. We have 4 loops now. We're going to jump right over to here, because as you can see, we've built on top number 1, 2, and this will be our 3rd, working from the bottom up. You're going to come all the way over to this chain space to finish your stitch, yarn over, insert, pull through, then pull through 2, then pull through all 5, and that makes your next triangle gap. You're going to do that all the way across. Again, stop here and I'll show you how to do the end of the row just one more time. Okay, so continue working across into your triangle gap, reaching across to the chain 3 space, all the way across the row, and I'll get you when you've just got 1 left to do. Okay, so I'm just about to complete my 4th cluster. And once we've got 4 loops, we're going to work into the last chain space. But this isn't our last stitch. This is where you can go wrong. So once you've got 4 loops, reach across to the chain space, complete your stitch, pull through all 5, and that kind of looks like you've finished your pattern, but we've not, because we've only got 4 clusters. So again, you're going to, here's our triangle space, we're going to chain 3 into your triangle gap, work your 3 double crochets through the first 2 loops only. Then it doesn't look like we've got anywhere else to go, but into this chain 2 space that we made, we're going to into the very top one. So we only chain 2, so we're going to into the top chain, and you're going through the chain again, not under it. So make sure you have your V, which can be quite tricky, as you can see, because I can't get the V on, but persevere. It has to go through the stitch. So once you have your V, complete the stitch, yarn over through 2, and yarn over through all 5. And that's me got my 5th cluster. I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to show you it one more time. So into the triangle gap, work your 3 double crochet cluster, 4 loops, work into the chain, pull through just the first 2 loops, then once you have 5 loops, yarn over, pull through all 5, and just make sure you have the same number of clusters. So I started with 5 and I still have 5. Continue doing that until your piece is as long as you want, and then just finish off. It's quite a simple stitch once you get into the swing of it. So that was the cobblestone stitch, and I can only thank you very much for watching the video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment away. If there's anything that you don't like about the video, please let me know, because I do enjoy getting constructive feedback. I did get some feedback that I was using too small a hook, and I do try to make the next video better than the last. So thank you very much for joining me today, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye now.